What's up, everybody? We are back here live on Roundtable Wrestling Radio, and joining us right now is a very, very special guest, former TNA superstar, former tag team champion, war hero, the one and only Gunner. Gunner, welcome to the show.
Oh man, thanks for having me on.
It's I gotta check our history, but I don't know if we've ever had a war hero on the show. So this might be a first time.
Just to really say Jesse Neal.
Oh, right. That's right. We've
he's
had
definitely a war hero.
We've had so many guests on the show, but in spite of that, it's an honor to have you on the show. We are huge fans of yours. We actually have talked about your career a lot of years on the show, which spans a lot longer than people realize, and obviously. The biggest part of your career was in TNA Wrestling, one of the most controversial companies in the history of pro wrestling. I want to get your thoughts right off the bat on that. I actually watched the first TNA pay-per-view, and ever since that point, I've seen on the internet a constant barrage of hatred towards this company. Were you aware? What are your thoughts about the whole people always coming down on TNA Wrestling all the time?
You know, I looked at when I was part of the company. I tried to stay away from all the rumors and such like that because, I mean, they provided me for a job for 6 years, and I'll never even bash the company at all.
Right.
I still got friends there, but you know, the whole rumor thing. You got to look at just the way the internet is now, the way media is now, and even the WWE universe. I mean, they'll get mad one minute at Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar, and then 3 months later they're jumping on board with them. So it's like everybody's got their opinion. They're obviously, they have the right to say and do it, type what they want. But the fact is, I mean, like, they got to think about, if there really was just one wrestling company, I think it'd be bad for business. If there really was just WWE alone, I mean, there's nowhere else for anybody to go watch a show unless it's independent stuff or Ring Honor. But they, it never really bothered me with the Impact. I mean, from the time I got there in 2009, I believe it was.
Right.
The rumors were starting, the rumors were around then. Oh, the company's going out of business in 2 months. Or the company's going out of business in 6 months. And every month you would hear that, and I heard that for 6 years. And all you can really do is just keep going. Now, I know with the change of the network from Spike TV to Destination America and the ratings kind of dropping drastically, there has been a lot more rumors. And then you got a handful of guys either getting released or leaving the company. It does kind of look bad. So I hope and pray that everything is okay with the company.
But
look good.
My thing is, sir, that even from the beginning of the company, there was I don't know, there was this kind of hatred towards you guys. Almost unwarranted hatred towards TNA for almost, like I said, from the actual beginning of the company, from the very first pay-per-view. I've never seen anything quite like the hatred that the internet fans had towards TNA. Almost because this is what I believe. I think if TNA did unfortunately go out of business, I think a lot of people are going to start saying, well, I missed the company. They did have good wrestlers. They did have good events. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that kind of thing with wrestling fans. But you guys have just had this barrage of hateness towards you like I have never seen in my entire life, which has been 35 years as a wrestling fan. I've never seen anything like it.
Neither have I. I'm 33, and then the internet bashing. I was like, man, what's the problem? Can't people just enjoy the product? Like, if I don't like a TV show, or if I don't like a band or something like that, I'm the kind of person, I don't bash them. I just, I'm not gonna listen and watch it.
Right.
I just don't watch the product.
But there's people that are rooting for you guys to have a demise. You know what I mean? Like, there's actual fan pages of, oh my God, TNA, please sink like the Titanic. And I just don't understand why it's that personal with people. You know what I mean? Like, you're a bad guy, you get booed, but why is it such a personal vendetta with TNA? Like, what did TNA do to everybody? Like, did you guys personally go to everybody's house and harass them?
I never understood it either, man. It baffled me because I rooting for a company to be, to go under, but people's jobs. I mean, come on.
Right? Yeah.
It's That was one of the worst moments. I mean, about the time you came in, I think you said it was '09. I couldn't remember, but it was the same time we had the Immortal thing with Hogan in there and Bischoff in there, and that seemed to have been when, like, I'd say the climax of where people were saying this is where the company's going down. It's becoming the new WCW. I mean, but was that really taken away? I mean, you're walking the door and people are already writing you off just because these other guys are there.
Yeah, and that was a different time. I know, I came around '09, and in 2000, I think 10, me and Murphy, Michael Judas, the guy that was with me with the tag or the security thing, we got kind of, I say, laid off for like 6 months when Hogan came back in. And then when we came back, it was like we were part of that. But the thing about TNA that really killed me, and I think makes the fans mad at times, they don't yes, they build certain stars like Bobby Roode, James Storm, and guys like that that's been around forever. But they're so bad sometimes about building, the future stars, and they would bring these older guys in. And I have the most respect for Hogan and Bischoff and all these guys. But, you've got to, like, Vince builds younger stars. Look at NXT. Look at what Triple H is doing with NXT and how amazing these guys are down there.
And let me just say, like, when I first saw you in TNA wrestling, that was the first time I noticed the Gunner. I thought, man, this guy, has a cool look. They had the whole modern day Viking thing I really liked. But then, like you said, sometimes in TNA, what happens is, like, a new superstar, like you said, will come in, we get invested a little bit in them, and then all of a sudden, like, it seems like there's like a massive overhaul change in the company, and then you kind of like lose interest in the talent that was just there 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? So it is a little hard to be invested in Gunner if we don't see Gunner, follow up with something interesting.
Right, and the same thing, and the modern day Viking thing was my own name that I came up with. They're just kind of, the modern day warrior kind of deal.
I loved it. Yeah,
they hated it. Like, they didn't. The writing team didn't like it. I don't understand why. They said, "Well, it doesn't really go with your, your military thing." I was like, "It absolutely goes with my military thing. I don't have to be called the modern day Marine." But my biggest thing is like I said, they gave me a job for 6 years, but. And I told him this right before I left, that I felt like I was underutilized. There's many times, like the James Storm feud, where they could have catapulted me to, not saying I deserve to be the world champion, but catapulted me and kept going with me. And rumor is I didn't know how to cut promos. Well, the fact is, you guys never gave me the microphone to cut promos. And if I didn't know how to cut promos, then, you teach a guy how to cut promos.
Right, right.
But, there's a lot of things that went wrong, like guys like me and Sam Shaw that were underutilized. But it happened a couple times with my career there.
There was. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I'm glad you even brought that up, how the entire military thing, that seemed to have been something TNA was writing on. As we mentioned Jesse Neal earlier, Rosita had the same treatment. I think they did the same thing to Crimson and doing a Crimson Army thing with him. Anytime they had a guy that was in the military, they constantly try to make him have that military gimmick, and they're doing that right now with Melendez too, and it really bothers me. That what was the mindset? Why did they not get away from that? If you know,
I don't know. But thankfully, they really they ran with my military gimmick, but they didn't say, "Hey, we're gonna make you dress up in Marine Corps attire and stuff like that." Because I have a different look. Like I'm a bearded, long-haired, tattooed guy, so I was like, "Well, you can't I mean, one time they come up and said, how do you feel about cutting your hair and shaving all your facial hair?" And I went, "Well, I don't mind. I'll do what you want me to do, but I prefer not to." And I said, "This is the reason why. I'm never going to be a clean-cut baby face. Like, look at my tattoos. I'm dirty."
Right, yeah.
And
it works.
Yeah, right. And then they were like, "Oh, okay, you're right." Because you got military guys like special forces who look like normal day guys.
Right.
So thankfully, I pitched that to them. But I don't know why. I feel like they get hot, then they get cold with this whole military thing. And I know Melendez is an awesome person to have the military gimmick because of his story. So him being an ambassador, per se, for the company and go out and speak to, military appearances and stuff like that, then I think for him that's perfect. But a guy like me who's just like, man, I just want to, I'd love to speak to the, military stuff. There's things I did with the Marine Corps and military appearances for him. But for the most part, I think you had to steer clear of that whole military cliche with me.
Well, and not only that, but I don't know if you ever saw a movie called Lone Survivor with Mark Wahlberg, but
Oh yeah.
you had one of those kind of looks, and like you said, you had this like grungy, dirty look, but it worked for what you were, having the presentation that you had. I would have absolutely, like I said, when you first got there, I thought, oh, this guy looks like he's a badass, like he's gonna kick somebody's ass. And every time, like, again, they kind of went something with you, it would stop and it would, kind of halt for a couple of weeks. And, it's very difficult to, again, get behind somebody if they're not willing to give you the microphone or give you a full-blown storyline. I mean, you could be the best wrestler in the world. If you don't have the backing, what good is that going to do you?
Exactly. Yes, and there's many times that kind of like I said, it happened with my career. They started giving me the push or whatnot, and then it just kind of fall to the face of the earth. So it was very discouraging. And there was a time in May right before I got released that I went in and said something like, I feel like you guys are underusing me. Like, and I had done 2 movies, this past year so far,
right?
And they really never took the time to even advertise that. Like, that's free publicity first of all. If you got a star. One of your stars is doing movies to easily promote your company.
Right.
But it's like they just didn't want to invest the time into me. So, I'm 33. When I got released, it was one of those things where people were, my mother was worried about me about it. Oh my God. And I was like, Mom, to be honest, like I was relieved.
Right.
I told many people that it was one of those things where it's just time to move on. I'm looking forward to the future. Hopefully, some WWE doors open or Japan or something.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the God's honest truth. I was a massive TNA supporter for many, many years. I stopped watching the product for the last 2 years. And when I heard that you had gotten released, I was genuinely shocked because I thought, okay, there's a couple of guys that I could see get released. But Gunner, I always thought, like, okay, you have the James Storm thing going or you have this going. Yeah, the last time I saw you on television, you had the Feast or Fire situation going on.
Yeah,
so you were a genuine shock, as far as not being in the company anymore. And that's what I was like, so, if Gunner gets released, that means there's not a lot of people that are safe if Gunner gets released.
And they had you
right. Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah. So going back for a second, how does, you have this unbelievable Marine Corps background. Were you a wrestling fan growing up? I mean, how did the wrestling thing get involved in your life?
Oh, yeah. I was, this is something that's like, you got a lot of guys coming into the business now who aren't wrestling fans or weren't. But me, ever since I can remember, 4 or 5 years old, this is all I've wanted to do. So I'm definitely living my dreams. So I grew up wanting to wrestle. My mom was the one carrying around wrestling figures in her pocketbook for me, and I just kept going with it, man. And I got laughed at a lot in school because I wanted to do this quote unquote fake fake entertainment sport.
Right.
But it never bothered me. It's just something my dad and mom always like, if that's what you want to do, then more power to you. Like, just go do it. So I'm definitely living my dream.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because, sometimes we see on Tough Enough, most of the kids on Tough Enough aren't even aware of what happened 10 years ago in wrestling.
Right.
Here you are. It for me anyway, I'm a genuine wrestling fan. It frustrates me to see somebody, if you ask them who the Freebirds are or, any name you could think of, they won't be able to tell you that. And these are the guys that are getting television time while your situation, you're a wrestling fan. And we've had many people on the show that have had the exact same kind of situation where they're genuine wrestling fans. They're talented. They have a great look, and nothing seems to go, for them. I don't understand it. Is it the wrestling business today? Do you think maybe there's a lot of chaos now with the wrestling business, and WWE is kind of really taking this thing over?
It is. It's a business now. It's no longer guys. I'm not saying all the guys. The thing I've noticed about NXT and what Hunter is doing down there is that a lot of the guys that they're hiring, and there's some that are college athletes or power lifters or whatnot, but there's a lot of independent wrestling guys that they've been given a chance to.
Yes.
2 or 3 of my buddies are down there right now who, busted their tail since 2002, 2003. So, they're getting back to that whole, not hiring basketball stars or football stars, because these guys sometimes come down there and don't cut it. They don't They don't understand what wrestling is, but it is a different business now. Like, I think they're really branching out to try and find, different style and make this like a totally different, entertainment.
Well, I think when we are living in a world where WWE hired Samoa Joe, things have changed.
Well, not even just that. Like, we were talking about, I think about the time we had you agree to come on the show, and the week right after we had Moose, we were reading a report that they were looking at Moose, Adam Cole, Jay Lethal, and yourself to being a part of the company. Was there some truth to that? Was that just some people talking online?
I think it is. I've talked to a few people. I won't say any names or anything, but the whole thing. Like, one time, my buddy sent me a text, said, "Are you down at NXT?" I went, "No, man." There was a rumor like I was already down there training and all that.
Stuff. So, there was.
There may be some truth to like the Jay Lethal and those other guys, but I haven't heard. Like, I haven't got any tryouts or anything, yet. So I'm hoping that some of the rumors are true, but. We'll see.
I just want to apologize for starting those rumors.
Oh yeah, somebody started them.
No, but in all seriousness, I could totally see Gunner. I mean, I don't know if they're going to call you that, but I could totally see Gunner versus Sheamus. I mean, what a physical matchup that would be. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a ton of guys that Gunner would match up with really, really well in the WWE right now. Like you said, it's a totally. I mean, we're like last night we had this pay-per-view where most of it was wrestling. I mean, it's pretty shocking, So now I think this might be the greatest opportunity for a Gunner to go down to NXT, make some waves, and then get into the main roster. So hopefully these rumors are in fact true. I mean, we know Jay Lethal's talented. We know all the guys we mentioned are talented, and so are you. So I think I'm hoping that we get to see Gunner on television, and not only that, but how awesome would it be? Like, not in a bad way for TNA, but in a sense, like TNA didn't know what they had, and then you become massively successful in WWE. It's kind of like, hey, you should have listened to me a little bit,
Yeah, I had a conversation with a friend the other day. It definitely would be Gunner because TNA owns that name, which I'm totally fine with. Okay. But I have a no compete clause till July 22nd, which is right around the corner. So, but to get a chance, that company would be great. I mean, I was always happy in TNA, but there was always that part of me in the back of my mind going, you dreamed of a WrestleMania moment, you dreamed of wrestling in the WWE ring, and I still have to, at least attempt it. If I get told no or whatever, then hey, at least I tried. But I would love to, because I love, the NXT product. Like I said, I got buddies down there, and they got some really amazing talent. And to see, the time and money that they're investing in these guys, and just, the work part of that company, it's all about getting better down there.
Just for the sake of a bad joke, is your buddy happening to be Buddy?
No. No, you guys know Dash Wilder and what's his name? I know it was Casey McKnight. I forgot his name.
I'm not familiar with Dash. No.
Dash Wilder and Shane Dawson.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, Dawson. There you go. They're just now giving those guys a lot more TV time on NXT, and these guys are great, dude. They got that brainbuster, roughneck look, and that's what Triple H, from what I hear, likes with those guys.
When you were growing up, what were you watching? Was it NWA, WWF? What were you watching?
When I was younger, I remember watching WWF more as a kid, like Macho and those guys. Now, as I got into middle school, age, I started like 95 time frame. I started with WCW and kind of the whole Monday Night Wars. I would watch one and record the other one on VHS tape, for God's sake. So
it was mind blowing. It was mind blowing, wasn't it? I mean, for me,
oh man,
it was mind blowing. Eddie Guerrero,
yeah, I grew up all of it.
When you were watching, like, who did you think about, like, wrestling during the Monday Night Wars? Like, because there was a lot. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of talent on both shows.
It was crazy.
What were some of the matchups that you thought about during that time period in terms of being in the ring with one of these guys?
Of course, Eddie, Chris Benoit, regardless of what he did, I'm still a Chris Benoit wrestling fan.
Yes.
But Triple H was always one of my favorites to just watch. Like, he's I remember as a kid, not knowing anything about wrestling or, quote unquote, telling a story or whatnot. But I just remember Triple H's expressions, his selling. Always, to me, it always caught my eye. And, Bret Hart was one of my favorites to watch too when it comes to like wrestling aspects. So I could name so many names right now. Macho Man's one of my favorites to still watch just because he was way ahead of his time.
Yes, I totally agree. By the way, Chris Benoit and Gunner, I think, would have been a hell of a matchup, honestly.
It was a machine, man.
Honestly, and I agree with you, by the way, in spite of everything that he did, his stuff in wrestling was one of the most spectacular careers I've ever seen. Just like you said, Benoit had the technique inside the ring, and I think, unfortunately, this generation that's growing up probably won't know that as well as we did. No. Because they kind of, want to erase that a little bit. But Benoit was truly one of the most extraordinary pieces of talent in the history of the business, honestly. And Gunner versus Benoit would have been like a cool, I don't know, like that matchup would have been really cool to see in terms of just pure like physicality. By the way, and I wanted to ask you about that. When you're in the ring, what is your thoughts on the physicality on a match? Because we're seeing a little bit more of a physical style. I don't know if you noticed that, obviously, but with Kevin Owens and Sheamus, who wrestles in a very rough style. Personally, your thoughts on a rougher style in the ring, and does that bother you?
No, I love it. I love like a little bit of, when I'm working guys like, independent shows or something like that, a lot of the times I'm working guys I know. So we're not what they call stiff with each other, but we're tight. We're snug. There's no room. There's no gaps when you're putting a chin lock on or a headlock. And when people gap, like if I can stick my arm through that hole, then the fans are going to go, that's not, what are you doing? So to me, to see these guys, it reminds me of the NWA times when you had guys like Arn Anderson and, freaking like Stan Hansen Japan style, like how they, everything, they were taking care of these guys, but the body language and the movement just looked so real.
Ole Anderson had that as well. When he would beat up a jobber, it just looked like he was massacring this guy.
It probably was, from what I hear.
Yeah.
But no, I love the rough style, man. That's just, it doesn't look so crisp and choreographed.
So you wouldn't be one of these guys that came into the E, and if you wrestled Kevin Owens and there was a little bit of roughness, you wouldn't be complaining about that.
No, man, no, dude. I as long as we're taking care of each other, if the guy's taking care of me, then that's fine. Like I'm okay with, a shot to the head, or I'm okay. Because
I personally, like, when I see like a Sheamus, like he had a match with Roman Reigns, and I know people rag on Roman Reigns a lot, but in terms of in-ring performance, these guys had a very physical, like hard kind of match. And I personally, I'm 35, so I like that more than the cartoony stuff. So when I see that, yes, I know it's at the end of the day, you guys are predetermined, but it seems more real to me. It seems more like a sport when you guys do that. I mean, Kurt Angle also has that ability, by the way. He has the ability to make it look like he's hurting the crap out of you. Am I right about Kurt?
Right, yeah. Yeah, because he's a machine in the ring too, and everything he does just makes sense, and it looks aggressive. That's really what captivated me growing up watching guys like Eddie, like Benoit, and just how aggressive they were, but they were taking care of these guys.
Also William Regal is another guy that
yes, Regal is one of my favorites, man. Watching him a bit back in WCW, and I was listening to a story one time where Regal and Fit were wrestling, and the American crowd was just kind of not even reacting. So Regal told Fit in the middle of the match, Fit, break my nose. And he punches him in the face in the match and just like busts his nose wide open. And then the crowd reacts. So it was like, good Lord.
Those were some of the most physical battles on Nitro between Regal and Finlay. Yeah. That we were seeing at that time. I mean, they were going at it. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you.
Those guys were the best, man.
In TNA, you had this long-standing relationship / tag team partnership with James Storm, a guy that I really, really enjoy watching, a guy that, when he was doing the with Bobby Roode and even the other tag team that he had prior to that. What were your thoughts on James Storm and working with him, whether it was against him or tagging up with him? Because I love James Storm.
Yeah, tagging was great. It was a good opportunity for me to come back in and get attached to a guy that's been there for a long time and kind of reestablish Gunner. They didn't really keep us together long, which I enjoyed the tag team wrestling, but I'm more of a singles guy. And then to get a feud with James and actually, they actually took their time with the writing and the story and everything. It was like a 5 or 6 month feud. So we did all these physical matches, and he was always down for making it look like a fight.
Yeah.
He's another guy, like we talked about, kind of a rough style, and there was times that we would probably hit each other just like one of those, whatever, part of the match. So, but that was a good, really stepping stone, like a rising point in my career, I think. And I always thank him for it because he was so giving to me. And he's one of those guys, like when I came in as security, he saw that I was driving, 20-hour round trip, hardly getting paid anything just to get an opportunity in the company. And he always told me, and I respected that because I've been paying my dues since 2001 working independent shows, but
right.
I paid my dues with the company by doing that.
Right.
And, he's always cool with me and very giving.
Are you a guy that's hungry for respect or hungry for money?
Dude, I'm hungry for respect. Like, obviously, you're not going to sit here and lie. Like, money's awesome. Like, being able to pay my bills wrestling, that's tremendous. But, wrestling's different now. You're not going to be a multi-millionaire. John Cena and those guys are. There's rare few. But for the most part, when I retire and go into whatever else I do, I want to be a guy that's remembered who, worked hard.
Right.
And,
right.
Young guys come up to me and say, hey, how did you do it? Or what's the secret to success or whatever. And, that's my main thing. Ever since I was, younger too, and my dad's the same way, so I can't steal it in me.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask that is because, there's a lot of guys that get into wrestling for money. And when you get into wrestling for money and you're not, like we talked about earlier, if you're not aware of the past or the history of it, I don't know, like those guys seem like the fans don't take to those guys very often. And even if we don't know per se the information about that certain person, whether he's hungry for money or not, it comes off on television. I mean, you could see like a Gunner or a James Storm or the guys that we talked about, Eddie Guerrero, you could see that they love wrestling. You know what I mean? When they're in the ring, there's a difference with those guys as opposed to, I don't want to keep ranking on Tough Enough, but as opposed to a guy like those guys on Tough Enough where, you listen to them for 5 minutes and you just want to shut the television off because you're like, you don't even care about wrestling.
We ranked about them in the first hour, so I'm not surprised we still are.
Yeah, it's just, as a wrestling fan, it bothers me sometimes when, there's so many great pieces of talent out there that is, like you said, underutilized or not on television enough. And I think, thank God we have NXT because I do think that is changing everything.
It is, yeah. And the Tough Enough thing is a TV show, unfortunately, so they're going to throw the entertainment aspect in there, but,
it's horrible.
The NXT brand,
season.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's different, the NXT brand is nice because you see the young guys that are hungry and that, they're wanting to get better. And
the thing I see the most about this year's Tough Enough is why do we need Tough Enough this year when we have, all the independent guys that are coming up? We have the next guy. You know what I mean? That the next guy is, Prince Devitt, or the next guy is Samoa Joe, or we have a whole bunch of next guys. Do we need, bodybuilders or whoever to come in, to a house? I don't think we need that this year. I mean, I think this is probably the most stacked talent overall that we probably ever had since the 90s. In the 90s, we had, the luchadors and the, those guys coming from ECW and WCW. But now you guys are spread out all over the country. Are you excited about the fact that this generation is breeding some of the greatest talent of all time?
Oh, I am. And I watch, I do a lot of independent appearances right now. And there's so much good talent out on independent shows that I mean, man, it's ridiculous. Like, you got so many, independent wrestling's kind of like a small territory now.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And these shows I'm doing shows with, there's, some here in the Carolinas, AML and then PWX, they put on tremendous shows. They have tremendous talent. And to just watch some of these guys and even watch some of the NXT stars, yeah, it's definitely an awesome, compared to like a few years back where it's kind of like, it felt like a dying breed, but now it's awesome to see like young talent really get an opportunity.
Yeah, it seems like one after another right now. Like, there's a rise of a superstar every couple of weeks. You know what I mean? And that's exciting for a fan watching television. We're getting to see different talent now.
Well, that has a lot to do with the fact that we've got so much more wrestling. We mentioned a lot with WWE and NXT, and of course TNA. You being a former employee with them. But also we have a part of that Wednesday night lineup, the Lucha Underground and the Ring of Honor, which honestly I would love to see Gunner go in the Ring of Honor with some of these guys too. What did you really think? I mean, the fact that we're kind of back at like in the Wednesday night war kind of era, and you're even sort of being part of, was part of it not too long.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like I said, it's great for business, especially when Ring of Honor got picked up with Destination America. Everybody was worried. I was like, what's to worry about? There's opportunities for cross promotion. There's opportunities for just another company to rise. I got friends in Ring of Honor, so to me, it's awesome to see these guys get an opportunity to showcase themselves on the national television show. Even though Destination America doesn't reach a lot of households unless they order the product, but still they're getting more views than they were. So
let me ask you something. When a couple of months ago you were a part of the company, was it we spoke about it earlier, but in the locker room, is the morale tough to keep up when there's always like these rumors about you guys losing a television deal or you guys losing your jobs? I mean, there's always talk about the morale with you guys, or were you always able to keep that up?
There was some morale problems where guys are just tired of hearing the rumors. We wanted to know more info about the Destination America thing. Like supposedly they're dropping TNA in September, but we could never get a definite answer. So for a lot of guys, we were like, this is our job, this is our livelihood. Like we need to know answers. But somehow, there was always a beat around the bush to where it was like, oh, we don't really know. But for the most part, we all tried to stick together. Everybody still went out there and put on a great show, worked their tails off.
Right.
But that morale was a little less, a little worse than it was, say 2 years ago.
Let me ask you something. Did Spike TV, when you guys were on Spike, this is the interesting thing to me, is that you guys, I believe, either you had the number one show on Spike in terms of the original show, or you were close to having the number one show. Did Spike TV drop the ball on TNA? Because they hardly promoted. They hardly let people know that you guys were on there, and yet you guys were still one of the top shows on Spike. I mean, did Spike TV drop the ball?
I think they did. There may have been some more inside scoop that I don't know about when it came to like Dixie Carter or I don't know, but I think for the most part, what we saw with Spike never, like you said, they would promote Bellator on our show, but on Bellator they'd never promote our show. And they, when we first got with Destination America, they put out the big USA Today spread. They really promoted it, and I think Spike I think it was. I don't know, maybe they just didn't care about professional wrestling, even though we were their highest rated show. So you're thinking, well, why wouldn't you at least invest a little bit more time into this? I don't know. Maybe there was some hard to deal with people in TNA that they just couldn't get along with. So the
only people that knew that you were on Spike were the people that were watching, because other than that, we wouldn't know that you guys were on Spike. You know what I mean? There was no promotion, like literally no promotion whatsoever. And it's kind of like odd that the number one show on Spike, certainly the number one original show on Spike, was, sometimes you guys would, get replaced by Star Wars or something like that. It was just weird. It was, I don't know, it was a weird situation, and I think that's another reason why fans had a difficult time following you guys, because, sometimes we would kind of either forget, or there was always something, going on in terms of rumors, and yet you guys, anytime I watched your show, you guys were producing some of the best matches on television at that time. I mean, not now. It's obviously switched the other way, where WWE has definitely gotten the ball right on that. But at the time, you guys killed it every single week in terms of matches and match quality. Maybe not storyline, but match quality for sure.
Right, and I think another thing that really, really hurt us too was, I heard, for instance, back in March, that when WrestleMania was, March, I went to San Jose for WrestleCon, which is an independent signing. And
Right.
just to walk through the San Jose airport and see what, like, this machine Vince McMahon owns and how they promote and
Right.
stuff like that. I was like, why? It made me think, man, like, if TNA would have took TNA or even Spike at the time would have took the time and money to invest, like, in promoting and just, like, marketing an area when we did a big pay-per-view, then it just means more. It makes the company look like WWE's guys look like rock stars, man. I mean, this place, it was unbelievable. So it really, like, hit me hard when I saw that.
And what's interesting too is that when you guys did shows at the Manhattan Center, aka the Hammerstein Ballroom, I'm from New York, and that crowd always gives you guys the honest crowd reaction. And for the most part, that crowd was very into everything you guys did. I mean,
awesome.
that's an amazing place to work, right? I mean, the
I loved it. It was either that or like the UK, like but
United,
New York,
yes.
man. All the New York shows were tremendous. Like they did. You're right. Like I was worried because I've heard horror stories about New York. So I'm like, are they gonna have Gunner? Because I don't do 900 spots, but they did. I mean, they always got behind me. I was like, this is great.
So they didn't change the channel like they did to Batista.
No, they didn't do that to me yet.
But it is crazy because you guys, again, product-wise, for a long time, TNA was the place to go to where you wanted to see a good wrestling match and things like that. But it seems like, I don't know, like there's always something contradictory going on in TNA. Let me ask you also, recently, Jeff Jarrett returned to TNA.
Yes.
What were your thoughts, or did you know about this? What did you think about that?
I didn't. It was a surprise to me. I feel like maybe there's rumors going around that GFW is going to do a feud with TNA, kind of like an invasion kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know. It was definitely a shock because I thought he was done and gone, but I'm curious to see what happens. There's a lot of guys leaving, a lot of guys going to GFW doing shows, so I'm not really sure.
I mean, as far as a fan, I have to say this. To me, for that to work, we have to get to know Global Force Wrestling first. Yeah. Because why would we care if Global Force Wrestling invades TNA when we don't know what Global Force Wrestling is yet? You know what I mean? Like, we need.
Totally.
I mean, it's just my opinion, of course. But when if Nitro would have invaded Raw in '98, that would have been a big deal. You know what I mean? Because we knew about both products. But right now, like, I mean, they're basically, the rumor is that they're going to take a couple of TNA guys and then reverse it back on them. So I don't know. It should be interesting, but I agree. It was a shock to see Jarrett on that programming. Match wise, Gunner, I always ask this: if somebody comes up to you and asks you, if there's one match that you would tell people to watch that best exemplifies Gunner, what would you tell somebody that match is?
I would think, oh man, I got two actually. If you want to see wrestling style, then it was me and Magnus in the main event 2014 in Manchester, where
nice.
James Storm did the turn.
Right.
Also, one of my favorites is probably me and James in the cage match at Lockdown.
Yes.
I guess last year maybe. No, 2 years ago. I'm not sure. Whatever year that was, I'm lost. But definitely that one, because that was the one where, that was a match where as I come through the curtains the first time, like, boys gave me like a standing O. So I really felt good about that one, and it kind of, came into my own there. But if you want to see a fight match, then the cage match. But then Magnus is one of my favorite matches that I've had also.
And what do you have an opinion on the 6-sided versus the 4-sided?
I prefer the 4 just because it's tradition. But the 6-side, they obviously listen to the fans. The fans like it. The 6-side is a little bit more stiff and a little bit more hard for the guys to work in. But the 6-side is a lot more space for us. It's a bigger ring. But I prefer 4-sided ring. I prefer real ropes like WWE has as well. Like, I'm not a fan of the hard ropes there.
Right.
I like the real ropes.
Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, I was going to ask a little bit about the Global Force thing, but I think you kind of already answered regarding, are you part of the Global Force invasion? Because Samuel Shaw was rumored, Austin Aries was rumored about being part of Jarrett. They're not actually released. It's just storyline kind of stuff. But I think we already answered that question, though.
No, yeah, and I've had a few people ask me. Like I have, spoken to Jared about maybe doing some shows, but that's been a month ago. But to be honest, I feel like if it's something that he's doing with TNA, obviously I've never turned down an opportunity to wrestle anywhere. But I closed that door almost a month ago, and I think it's time for me just to move on and do something, something bigger and better.
And obviously, bigger and better, in my opinion, anyway. At least at the moment, because again, we touched on this many times, but the red hotness of the NXT / what's going on in WWE right now. What are we looking at? Are we still looking at you wanting to wrestle Triple H, even though it's not DX Triple H or whatever? But I mean, if you got to the company, some of the guys that you would want to work with the most.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know Hunter. He doesn't do a lot of matches anymore, but definitely. I mean, the dream of mine to be getting in the ring with him. He's just one of my favorites. He's one of the best. The newer guys, obviously, Rollins. These guys are just, phenomenal. So anytime I get a chance to step in the ring with some guys like that, and even the NXT, like some of their top guys down there, they're really going with Owens, you'd mentioned, and he's that rough style of Wrestle Joe. So I can name a bunch that's on the TV product that I'd really like to get in the ring with. But some of the legends, Hunter and Randy Orton still got plenty of. Left him as well.
No, he's still very nice in the ring.
Yeah.
Would you, as a fan, like to see AJ Styles in the WWE? Because a lot of fans would like to see that completion, like Sting, in a sense. Sting, a lot of people felt like unless he went to the WWE, that was, he had a full circle. Does the same apply with AJ? Because a lot of people, we had Scott D'Amore on the show recently, and he said that AJ is wrestling the best he's ever wrestled in his life. Is this the opportune time maybe for an AJ Styles to get there?
I think so. I think, AJ having a WrestleMania moment would just be full circle for his career as well. It just depends, like, if that's what he wants. Like, I talked to him here and there, but I've never really brought up WWE to him. I know he's doing amazing work in Japan, doing a lot of independent stuff, Ring of Honor and all that stuff. But I think the WWE Universe would love to see AJ, because they would, now, like the way it is, like the way they brought Joe in, they let him do his own thing. So
right.
I think they would bring AJ in and just go, hey man, just beat AJ Styles. Like you know how to wrestle, you know what you're doing, and to get a chance to see him work some of these new guys, I think the fans would foam at the mouth for it.
Yeah, I will say I absolutely hate Samoa Joe's NXT theme song though. It is. It is by far
different, right?
And by the way, speaking of theme songs, how important is it to you personally about a theme song? Like, because
it's super important.
Right.
Sorry to cut you off, but like I feel I already know what you're getting at, and it's like I was never happy with my TNA theme song. I could not stand it. Like they said, I talked to them about doing some new stuff and adding some like different things. They said, okay, cool. So they had like chopper blades at the beginning, but they kept this generic. Yeah, man, it's like they kept this generic music, and nothing against Dale, the man who does the music, is awesome. But like when it comes to that, he's got somebody he has to go to and say, is this okay? But
right.
I always pitched like I got a few buddies that are in bands, like Seven Dust, for instance. I'm good friends with those guys.
Really?
They offer to do my music. Yeah, they offer to do my music. I talked to Jamie Justin from Hatebreed. Like, he wanted to do some music. And not even, like, he's not going to make any money off of it, and they knew that, but it's cross-promotion. So, and I even talked to, Billy Corgan when he came into the company, and he was all for it. But it's just like, man, you got to have music that you feel. When Steve Austin's glass broke,
yes,
he come out. He was walking with a purpose. He felt his music. I never felt my music, and it just sometimes it showed. I could watch my entrance and go, yeah, I'm just not feeling it, and it sucks, man. I know it's not, but it's an important part of wrestling.
It is. It is. Really, it's a very important part. Very.
Yeah, I needed something that was more aggressive. And I always hated it, and I told him I hated it too.
We mentioned him earlier, but one of the things that come to my mind is Chris Benoit when he had those first three choruses of his theme song. It was electricity. Like I felt like, oh my God, here comes Chris Benoit. You have to feel that when you have a theme song. If you don't,
right.
You kind of like, why am I into this guy in the first place? You know what I mean? So it is a very important thing. And I did, by the way, I saw Seven Dust live, and that would have been an awesome band to do your theme song. Yeah,
that would have been amazing. Good guys too.
Yeah.
Your TNA theme was still better than Samoa Joe's, though. Okay.
in NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate it.
Yeah, it's not the best. And it improves, by the way, that WWE doesn't do everything great, because there's a couple of theme songs. I mean, Seth Rollins could use a better theme song in my estimation as well. So not everybody has a perfect theme song either, but it is a very important aspect. Let me ask you this also, Gunnar. When you were in TNA, was there anybody that you didn't get to work with that you wanted to and asked for?
Yeah, it was Kurt Angle mainly. Like, I did a 6-man with him a few years back, like in 2013, and it was like we were in the ring a minute and maybe a minute with each other, and it was one of those things where I begged and begged and begged, hey, let me work, Kurt. Like, please, this is an opportunity for him to help me get better. Not only that, but an opportunity for me to push myself, and it never happened. He, it wasn't him. He always was like, I want to work with you, and this and that, but for some reason, it was just one of those things they, just didn't let me do. I got to work with, Anderson a lot, which is, good friend of mine. Me and Bram really pushed for a feud. I worked Bram numerous times up on some, one night only things that, I don't know how many people saw, but, we just, we killed, because you had two guys that, you talk about the roughneck style. And that's really about it on the roster.
Well, I can't tell you how many guys have come on the show and told us that their best matches ever were at house shows that were not televised. Did you have those? Right. Did you have that too, where you had some of the best matches that weren't televised?
So yes, there was a few. Some of the times that me and Bobby Roode worked some house shows and stuff like that, there was. It wasn't long matches, 12 or 15 minutes, but, he was always there to work.
Yeah.
He wasn't there to phone anything in, and that's what I loved about him and Eric Young. Like, on house shows, you had some guys that were like, we're at a house show. Like, let's just, take it easy.
Right.
And I'm never like that. I can be in an indie show where there's 100 people, and as long as they're active and happy, then, like, I hate phoning stuff in. Like, this is my job. And,
right.
And I want to be the best I can, and people go, man, he really gave his all.
Well, back in the day in the NWA, their best stuff was house shows. I mean, the Tully Blanchard Art Anderson matches, we had Tully a couple of times on the show, and he talked about having some like 60-minute matches at house shows that nobody got to see, but they were the best matches, so
Crazy.
They never phoned it in other words.
Absolutely not, for sure.
And you shouldn't. Gunnar, I cannot tell you how awesome it's been having you on the show, honestly, and I really mean that, because we've talked about you many, many times on the show in terms of your matches, in terms of your stuff in TNA, and I was very excited about having you on the show. I cannot wait to see what happens in the future. If there's anything you want to promote, are you on Twitter? Are you on Facebook? Let the people know where they can reach Gunnar in terms of fans.
Yes, I am. Twitter is at Gunnar_Chad Lail, Lail. It's my real name. I use that for my wrestling and my acting brand. Now, the Gunnar thing may change soon depending on where I go and what I do. TNA's giving me okay to use Gunnar for now. But I think if it comes to, getting signed with a company somewhere, I had to kibosh that. But everybody's going to know. And then the same for my Instagram, it's Gunnar_Chad Lail. I am on Facebook. My real name is Chad Lail. So anytime anybody wants to, jump on there, I'm always putting my schedule up and, where I'm going to be independent shows. Like, I'm booked all the way through October as of now. And I got some shows in November and December. So I'm, I'm staying busy, guys. I don't sit. I hate sitting, and but no, I mean, I always try and stay active with the fans.
What I was gonna say, what do you think of the fandom? Like, are you okay with people coming up to you and saying how much they like you and all that? Because there's some people that don't like that. Where do you stand with that?
No, it doesn't bother me at all. I try. And sometimes, we all have our days where we're like, man, I just want to go home and relax. But
right.
I have to always remember that, I could be, in the Marine Corps in Iraq, but I'm actually living my dreams. So, I make time for the fans as much as I can. And, I'm always cool with them coming up and asking questions, getting pictures or whatnot. So that's just part of the job. That's the easy part of the job.
Right. Well, thank you once again, sir. It's a true honor for us to have you on the show for many, many reasons, and I really do appreciate it. And we hope that you come back one day to the show.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for your time as well, and I look forward to talking again.
Thank you so much, sir. The one and only Gunner.
Yes.
Thank you. The one and only Gunner. Awesome dude. Really, hopefully he gets a shot at NXT, and I think he actually does have a real shot at NXT, to be honest. So I think Byron and Amanda fell asleep.
Yeah, I think they were leaving something about fingers or something. I don't know what they were talking about.
Yes, Amanda's going to go film her next video. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to the show. The man who sleeps on the floor cannot possibly fall out of bed.
Bubblegum.